Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. We're here for another episode of Leeds United Latest with myself, Stephen Brown, and joining me as ever, Jason Booker. Get your comments in, like the video, and please do subscribe to the channel. We've got a few bits and pieces to talk about. Darlow, where art thou, Darlow? What's going on? Harry Wilson, when's that announcement happening? We're going to talk a little bit about other transfer rumours and bits and pieces as well. Mr. Booker, how are we doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm not bad, mate. I'm not bad. Still enjoying all the football that's coming. I was saying with Chris yesterday that we've still got another, I think it's 5 days until there's a gap with no games. 8th of July is the first day with no football at all. So, yeah, I'm just taking it in, enjoying it all. I think the World Cup's been great, if I'm honest. I think it's been a really, really good spectacle, really entertaining. The lower quality of some of the teams has been great because it's meant that you've just had like crazy scenarios and situations. I've really enjoyed it. I know some people will say, like Lou, that the the integrity and third place and all this, and I hear him to a point, but I've really enjoyed it. And keeping my finger on the pulse of the Leeds news. I was saying to both lads yesterday, because we chat with Chris and Lou, we're actually in a mad, silly season. Like, the transfer rumours always go a little bit mad, but the window itself has actually already been really busy. The Football League's been busy with players moving around. The Premier League's been way busier than ever. You know, the likes of Tonali and, big moves. Spurs have made like 4 big signings. The transfer window only opened 2 days ago properly. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's a crazy time to be invested in football.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I agree with you with the World Cup as well. I was very cynical, not really hyped about it this time. And yeah, it makes you fall in love with the game all over again. Yeah, it's just brilliant, isn't it? I mean, Mexico versus England in the middle of the night Monday, I cannot wait. It's just going to feel so important and big and World Cup like. It's going to be great. I can't wait for it. The Leeds stuff, I mean, it's interesting. I thought we were going to have by this point a couple of announcements. The big one, I mean, this dropped about half an hour ago. Article on the Daily Mail. Manchester United, Everton and Leeds all in for Karl Darlow. He's obviously his contract expired at the end of June. And I was reflecting on this, and God, what a position Darlow is in. Just from a personal point of view, he must be absolutely rubbing his hands together because you're the backup keeper. You've got to number 1 in the Premier League. You've performed really well. Stock couldn't be higher. I'm guessing Leeds were kind of, hoping that this one would just be kind of put to bed and look, could I get an announcement anytime where it's done? What do you think's going on there, Jay? What would you bet on what's happening there? Is this agent Leeds United? I mean, who knows what's going on and what the announcement could be at this point?
Who'd have thought that one of the biggest stories of the early part of the window would have been Karl Darlow? And I mean, from a Manchester United perspective, it's probably not that big of a deal. He's going to go in there potentially as the number 2, same as Everton. And if they don't get him, he goes on and they'll go on and sign someone else, won't they? But yeah, it's an interesting one. I get it completely from the human element point of this. Karl Darlow's not a Leeds fan. He's done unbelievably well at Leeds United. He's been with us for 3 seasons. I think he came in as the number 1, but then we ended up keeping Meslier, and he ended up falling into the number 2 slot again. He was ready and raring to go when the opportunity came. He took that opportunity. He's been a really, really good purchase for Leeds United. And, last season in establishing himself again over Lucas Perry as the number 1, he's put himself in the shop window at 35-year-old for a bumper deal at Leeds or a bumper deal at a massive club like Manchester United. And you cannot knock him for maybe thinking about taking that deal. Is he going to play week in, week out? No, he's not. Lemons is the future. He's going to be their main number 1. But any injuries, he's going to be playing at Old Trafford in front of 80, 90,000 week in, week out. He's going to be playing for one of the biggest clubs in world football. He's probably going to get assurances of playing in the Cup. He might even get assurances of playing in the Champions League.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you can't knock that. And the money. I don't know what Darlow's on, but let's say he's on 25, 30 grand a week. It's not going to be, an insane contract. Manchester United might be offering him 60. They genuinely might be offering him 60. As a good backup, it's worth it for a club like that. It's a free transfer for them, and they know he's capable. So if he ends up going to Manchester United, I'll be a little bit disappointed. But you're not going to see me being like, it's gone, man. Like, it's not going to be one of them because we signed him as a backup keeper. If he'd have never played for Leeds United, we'd have just been like, meh, won't we? So,
how much of a headache for Leeds United is this? Do you think?
I think it is a headache. Sorry. I just know not smart.
Smashing teacups because Darlow's left. There we go. Yeah.
I do think it's a headache. I think it's a real headache because I think Leeds are in a situation where they don't trust Lucas Perry. They would probably prefer to move him on, I think. Karl Darlow then being the number one or backup is probably the perfect solution, but they've been put in a position where his contract's running down. He has obviously now put himself into the shop window where he's got options. So now what do? You don't really want to sell them both or lose them both, do you? Then you're looking at a situation where you may be going to be signing an unproven goalkeeper, of which then you need it to work because otherwise you're screwed. So are we in the market for now signing two goalkeepers? It's a real tricky, difficult position. Goalkeepers like Karl Darlow, this sounds crazy to say, don't come around very often. No. It makes him sound like a cherished possession. Like he's not the world's greatest goalkeeper. But in terms of his age, his profile, his experience, and being prepared to then potentially be number two, but good enough to be number one, is really rare. So yeah, it's a tricky one. It's a real difficult situation for us.
Be interested as well if we re-sign him, what the publicity and PR around it will be. Like, it's our number one. We've got him. We've got Darlow, and you wonder if they'll bump it up and they'll hype it up because obviously the Suzuki rumours, a lot of conflicting messaging with that. It seems like the Italian side of it, like they did last year with a couple of players there, banging the drum, saying deals are close, blah blah blah. Graham Smith, YEP, though, who is probably the most trusted source, you would say at this point, with how close things are, poured a bit of cold water on it. It feels to me, that's I can't see it happening really.
What position does it put us in though, Browney? Like, so it kind of conflicts us for both because if you're in negotiations with Suzuki and you're saying to him you're going to come in as the number one, but then if Karl Darlow signs, you're going to be in competition. You might not start the season as number one. And then you've got Karl Darlow on the other end who's not got a contract, who's, going to be told that we're signing another goalkeeper. And he's like, but am I going to be number one? You're not going to be signing this 25-year-old lad for 30 million for me to then be number one. Like, he puts us in a real compromised position because negotiation-wise, there's conflicts between both. I think right now, I think the best route to this would be to give Karl a bit of a bumper deal, give him a 2-year contract, tell him you're going to be number one this year, you're going to take the number one shirt, and then next season we're going to look to sign somebody in the summer that's going to compete with you in your second season of this deal. If you're not happy with that, fine, we respect that. Go and take whatever else you're going to, and we'll go out, sort our trouble out here. I think that would be the best route to go down because I think we know we can trust Karl for another year of staying up in the Premier League.
And would you keep Perry as the backup option then? Would you keep Perry at the club and be like, okay, look, you can compete, you might get an opportunity. If you take that opportunity, maybe it's not over for Perry. But I think you're right. I think the problem is, because if you go to Karl Darlow and say, right, we're looking at this other keeper and, we're going to spend all this money, like you say, you're not going to spend all that money for a backup. If Karl Darlow's looking at going, right, I can be a backup at a Champions League club or I can be a backup at Leeds. And like you say, they're not fans of the club. It's a no-brainer, isn't it? They're going to be able to spend money, etc., etc. God, it is. We thought it was going to be a headache, though, didn't we? We knew this was bubbling in the background, wasn't it? This was bubbling because really, what was supposed to happen is Perry comes in as your big keeper signing. He absolutely smashes it.
Yeah,
and there's no issue. And you probably Darlow probably at that point would have been happy continuing for another year as backup.
Yeah.
This just changed everything now.
Well, he likely wouldn't have had these options had Lucas Perry been number one all season because he wouldn't have been in the eye line. He wouldn't have been in the shop window for the end of his contract. I think if you keep Darlow, you have to keep Perry. You just have to then force Perry into a situation where, look, you're going to have to fight for your place. You'll play the cup games. If there's injuries, you'll come back in. If form then says that you deserve to keep the spot, you'll keep the spot. Yeah. But for Karl, he's promised the number one position at the start of the season. That's how I think we would have to do it. Because if Darlow goes, if if what we're going to say now, how we're going to word this. If Darlow goes, you don't want to lose Perry, because obviously then you've lost both. If Darlow stays, that's what we're going to say. If Darlow stays, you're then in a compromised position to sell Perry, because how do you then replace Perry without the quality being either too low or too much of a competition to then piss Darlow off, who signed a new deal thinking he's going to be the number one? You're in a real tricky position, because Lucas Perry kind of understands this position he's put himself in, almost. Whereas a new number one or a new keeper coming in, a Suzuki, a Trafford, whoever, they're not going to come in and want to be sat behind Karl Darlow.
No.
So,
and also just from, SCR, PSR, all that exciting financial stuff, I would prefer, I think, having the evidence of what we've seen last season to give those two a go to compete for that jersey and save ourselves 30 million, 25 million. I mean, how much are we going to have to spend on a Trafford? How much are we going to have to spend on a Suzuki? Wages, transfer fee. This season, it feels like there's priority positions we've got to fill. And the keeper thing, it'd be perfect if we can just kind of keep that as it is, let it go for another season. I think I agree with you. Look, if you say to Darlow, you're going to be number one guaranteed for another year, number one. But then we're going to look for that younger keeper. If we stay in the Premier League again, we know next summer we'll have more financial capability to do it. It feels like that would be the best solution at this time. But of course, it's not an easy situation at the minute. It's fascinating to see how it's going to unfold.
I don't think that's the solution that the club want to do either. Because I think if it were, I think it'd be done. I don't think Darlow's not signing a new contract because he's considering either a number one spot at Leeds or a number two spot at Manchester United. I think the negotiations and the conversations are, ideally you will be a backup to a new keeper that comes in and will move Lucas Perry on. I think that is the conversation. There's too much smoke without there being a fire at the end of it. And I think maybe, this maybe comes down to Darlow's age. And unfortunately, what Farker thinks of Lucas Perry, which I get. And if he doesn't trust him, he does have to move him on. We've got a situation as well where the likelihood is we'll be able to recoup most of the money for Lucas Perry this summer. Whereas in another year, if he's not played again, who knows what that transfer fee could look like. We could end up losing pretty much all of that 15 million. So I understand it from the club's point of view, but I think that's the lesser of the evils, is just Darlow in, Perry to try and regain his spot, and then we sell Perry in a year's time, maybe, if it's not worked out. But
I still hope that there's something left with Perry. I still hope that we can get to that point where he was touted as one of the best up and coming keepers for in Europe. It feels like you've got your other example, Darlow. I mean, when we first saw Darlow, I've said it so many times, but when we first saw Darlow, at least you thought, oh yeah, back up. So back up in the Championship, by the way. Yeah. And he's managed to transform his game to a certain extent. Perry, there's an opportunity there, I would hope, where we can do that. Just to pull in some comments, Michael, morning, Jay Brown. Morning, Michael, welcome along, mate. Last summer, the likes of Kelleher was available and Brentford paid 12.5 million with add-ons. Sunderland paid 9.5 million for Roos with add-ons. Now, what I would say is I really, really like Kelleher. I really, really like Kelleher. And I remember there was links with Leeds, but the fees were going up and up and up and up. And then suddenly it was like Brentford have got him for 12.5 million. But look, the thing is, at the time, we were odds on to get relegated.
I think we have to remember that the player has a say in the decision as well. It's not like, Leeds United are interested in Kelleher, right? We've definitely signed him. Like there could well have been conversation there, and Kelleher were like, look, you're not established in the Premier League. I don't really trust that project. I'm going to go Brentford. That's very much the likelihood of the way that it went. We would have been interested in Kelleher a year ago. The rumours were that we were, but we would have been interested in him. It was too obvious of an option not to be. I think him, Ramsdale was another name. And Robin Roos is a different kettle of fish because he came from slightly different, a slightly different recruitment angle. I would say Robin Roos would have been a gamble a year ago. And probably more of a gamble than Lucas Perry. I think if you'd have put them side by side at the beginning of last season and thinking 10 million for Roos, 15 million for Perry, I think you'd have picked 15 million for Perry. It's only with the the benefit of hindsight that you would say differently. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
I thought we'd nailed it with Perry. I'm not going to kind of say I said anything different. I really was excited about it. I thought, wow, we signed, keeper that's been starting in Europe that season and everything. I thought it was a great bit of recruitment.
Yeah,
couple of things just to wrap up. Pascal Struijk, obviously, we talked about it earlier in the week. He's left Leeds, he's gone to Brighton. Don't know if there's going to be another goodbye video dropping today or not. We'll keep our eyes open for it. And just on the kind of publicity of it, Jay, I thought it verged on being too much. I personally think 3 videos, one by the players and his kind of PR, and 2 by Leeds, is a bit much. Now, I thought Pascal was excellent last year. I feel it's not overinflated. Look, he's played there a long time. He's part of the Bielsa team. He's made an amazing contribution. Really like him as a player. I think it's been a bit OTT this week, to be perfectly honest. I feel that if you look at his time over Leeds, if you look at how long he was actually good for, you'd probably maybe say 2.5 seasons out of 8 years is where he kind of performed. And it's funny, I mean, the latest week, it's like a 10-minute video saying, it means match on together, you never leave, and all this kind of stuff. It's like, look, you had a contract right there in front of you. And it makes me laugh as well, because perceptions of players, I mean, Somerville's rumoured to be going to Man United, and fans are like, oh, I can't wait to give it to him and all this kind of thing. And, he had a release clause in his contract that was met. Pascal's chosen to reject a contract from the club. He could have continued this journey, but he's rejected staying at Leeds United. So I'm not particularly, when I see Pascal, come up, if I were at Ellen Road and, he's turning up for Brighton, I'm not giving him a round of applause or, oh, Pascal, I'm just not, absolutely not. I think he's been kind of, I think it's been a bit much this week is what I'm saying in a long-winded way.
I couldn't agree with you more, mate. When we got relegated, like there's been these angles that, you stay when you go down and and all that. That's kind of the narrative that's being pushed in some of these videos. He stayed because nobody wanted him.
100%.
He stayed because he didn't have a release clause.
Yeah.
Like, let's not kid ourselves. Like, there's been murmurings of potential suitors for Pascal over previous summers, but nothing real concrete. And only really because he suits a profile of a left-footed centre-back.
Yeah.
Like, not because of out-and-out performances. His best season in the Leeds shirt by an absolute mile was last season. He was brilliant in a back three. I've got no axe to ground with his performances last season. He stepped up and he surprised me. He showed what he was capable of. But that doesn't mean that what came before it didn't happen. Like, he was still the same player that I always moaned about. It wasn't that, in this case, I am wrong from time to time, of course I am, but it wasn't the case in this case that I was wrong. It was a case that he's improved. That's it. And yeah, I just don't see it as anything other than he's got to a year left of his deal. We've offered him a new contract, which of course we would, because we'd still want to keep him. And he's turned it down and wanted to leave. In the way that I see it, he's no different to any other player really that jumped ship. No. If I'm honest, maybe there's a slight bit more of loyalty there. He's 26, he wants to develop, he wants to try something new. I can appreciate all that, but I'm not going to then coo over him because he's chosen to leave. Leeds United are at a point where we are progressing. No player really right now should want to jump off the Leeds United bus. No. This is a vehicle that's moving forward. It's not like when we signed Junior Firpo and Dan James and didn't push on under Bielsa. This feels different. We're going in a completely different trajectory. So fair enough, you want to leave, but then I'm not going to be glazing over you either.
No. And a couple of interesting points with this. I've noticed a lot of Brighton fans seem to be treating this as this is a squad player. This is not going to be a guaranteed starting player for them. A couple of things I want to pick up with you as well. Interesting in Leeds' statement, they make reference to that this kind of has sealed Leeds United's PSR problem. Or issue, but we offered him a new contract. So what would have happened if he'd have signed the contract?
Good question. Yeah, it's a good question.
Would that be a sale of another player? I don't get how it can solve it, but then if he signs a new contract, then was there someone else that you don't know? I mean, they may have been lining up, right? If Pascal doesn't move on, right, this player we know we can get a fee from, and maybe we fix it that way. But I just thought, that's a bit strange.
You're right. It's a great question, but things behind the scenes are very, very fluid. That these things are set up in such a way. It's similar to what's going on at Spurs right now. Spurs are blowing money all over the place, but they will have known at some point they would have been able to trigger the sale of Vuskovic. That transfer would have been agreed a couple of weeks ago, and they'll have just been waiting for all the things to kind of fall in line. It's like, right, we need that money now. Yeah, you can have him. Done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an interesting one. But I agree with, in terms of the trajectory of what he's going to look like at Brighton, I don't think he plays, if I'm honest. I think I was saying this to Lou yesterday, I think he's too slow for him. I think they play a very high line, they play a very progressive style of football. They dominate the ball high up into the opposition's half. Pascal at left centre-back with the ball clipped in behind him is going to cause some real problems for Brighton, because in a Leeds system, he's 20 yards further back. It's a bit like, if you think, different example, but similar, in when Harry Maguire was at Leicester, it was one of the best centre-backs in the Premier League.
Yeah.
But they played counter-attacking football. They played very, very deep. He went to Manchester United and he really struggled for a long period of time because he was expected to turn and chase after stuff that went over the top of his head, and he's not very quick. So I think Pascal will probably find himself in a similar situation. I think it's a good deal for Leeds United, mate. I really do.
Well, I think, from the Brighton point of view, you're getting a player that ticks the homegrown box, which you need for European competitions. So that's done. You got a centre-back. His contract was expiring, so you've not had to pay top whack for him. It makes a lot of sense. But like you say, I would not be surprised if he's not starting the majority of games.
Yeah.
And the thing with Pascal as well is, look, I thought mentally he was really strong last year, and he'd improved just in that front. But if there's any of that old Pascal that comes to the fore, where maybe he's not playing week in, week out, and then he gets dropped in, how is he going to deal with that? How is he going to deal with that? So it's going to be absolutely fascinating to see. Just to get to some of you. Oh, sorry, yeah, go on.
Just going to quickly say as well, we'll come to the comments. I think there could be an angle where he will find the pressure of playing for Brighton easier.
Yeah, good point.
They are, like, it sounds really like kind of bitter and salty, but they're small. They're a small club that, they're in the catalogue with Bournemouth. There's no expectations. The fans go for a bit of a jolly day out. There's no real expectation from the football club. Only a few seasons ago, there was playing at the running track at the Withdean, in League One. So maybe there could be a sense of freedom for Pascal in playing in front of Brighton instead of at Leeds, because it's not an easy place to play.
No, I did see that they'd got Rutter to do the kind of video, hadn't they, for the welcome video where it's on the voicemail. It's like, I don't know if, Brighton are trying to kind of create something. It's like, but like you say, because they're pretty, one of those clubs where it's like, oh, it's Brighton. Nah. It's like they're trying to maybe create something or get an angle on us or something. It's like, we really don't care, to be honest.
Yeah,
we really do not care. Just to get to a couple of your comments on Pascal. Pascal did well for Leeds in a back three, but with Brighton, who play with a flat back four, Pascal would be more exposed, as he will be exposed by pacey Premier League attackers. CB, thanks for your comment, mate. I heard Brighton are going to have Pascal's head reshaped from 50p to £1. Indeed. Good stuff. So moving on then from Pascal, want to talk a little bit about Shay Charles. So the Athletic have reported that a new bid of 23 million is going to be rejected by Southampton. This one's rumbling on a bit now, Jay, with Shay Charles. Lots of conflicting reports. We've been probably talking about Shay Charles now for, it feels like, a couple of weeks. I think it's been rumbling on. What's your gut feeling with this one? Does it get done, or is Southampton just putting too many blocks on this? Crystal Palace were linked as well. They made gazump. Is it worth pursuing him this amount of time for?
I think they're just trying to look, aren't they? They're just wanting to obviously create a bidding war, pump that fee up. you can understand it. There's a 15 or 20% sell-on clause as well for Manchester City. It's a tricky one. My gut feeling tells me that we probably don't.
Yeah.
My intuition's kind of leaning more towards the fact that I don't think it happens. But we'll see. I'd like the deal. I can see the benefit of it. I think the potential resale value. I think he's a good footballer. He gives us great options in an area of the pitch in which improving the overall baseline quality is important. You know, from Gruev, Tanaka, and Longstaff as maybe fighting for a particular role within this team. I think it's important that we do look to get improvements, and I think at an age in which he can progress and develop, and like I said, potentially it'll be a resale in a few years' time. It's important to have them signings as well, but I think we can also go to option B or option C for that position as well. So, I don't think I do see it happening for some reason.
No, Everton have signed Hayden Hackney for 60 million. Do you want to pay 30 million for Shay Charles?
Yeah, it seems a little bit strange, doesn't it, that you would then pay so much more for Shay Charles. I do believe that Shay Charles has got a year +1. I don't know if that's true, but I heard that yesterday. Whereas Hayden Hackney was in the last year of his contract. I think Hackney's a couple of years older as well, and coming back off an injury at the end of last year. So there's a little bit of a variation, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah, Skip, he's a good player and I would take him, but we can probably get better for the money abroad. And Gav, Charles, the new Pajau saga, move on. God, you remember Pajau last year? Oh.
Yeah, I do. that were a gutting one, that, because I thought that were done. I've got to be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of this. Oh, they've said no, move on. Like, that's not how transfers work. You know, we're hearing drips and drabs. We don't even know what's real and what's not. No, you're just taking it as gospel that we've had a £23 million bid, rejected, and that's it. It was like the Kelleher deal that you mentioned earlier. I think that rumour got up to about 35 million at one point, and then he signed for 12.5 plus. You know what I mean? Like, so it just goes to show you that we know nothing. We know F all, do it. You just have to, if it's the deal that the club want, if they are not just knocking at Southampton's door and Southampton going, we're not interested at all, go away. There's negotiations going on. There's clearly some willingness to negotiate with Leeds United. Otherwise, they would move on to another target. They're not just going to waste the time for the sake of it. I do think that happened a little bit under Radzonata, however, but we're not talking about Radzonata. So, yeah, it's if it can be done and it's the right deal for the club, go do it.
Yeah. Kevin, welcome along, mate. Glad to have you in. If you could all just pop a like on the video, hype the vid, that'd be much appreciated as well. Harry Wilson, we're waiting for that announcement video, aren't we? 1st of July has passed. We know it's a done deal. Do you think they're out there filming some fancy welcome video or something? Or is it going to get gazumped late in the day?
I don't think so. I don't believe that the big media outlets would have gone with it if it weren't done. But I do find it a little bit odd that it's not been announced. Maybe Harry's away. Maybe he's away on holiday. Yeah, I don't know. It's a bit of a strange one. I'll say that. It is a bit of a strange one. I've got nothing else really to say on it.
Yeah.
All I really think is that maybe he's on holiday. He's been away for a couple of weeks. The day he gets back, he's straight up to Ellen Road. Maybe that's it.
Yeah. What do you make of how it's kind of developing, this transfer window? Because June's gone now. We're in the new financial reporting year. We haven't got that long before you have to kind of put that squad together. Skip's mentioned there earlier about a striker. What do you make of how things are cooking up at the moment? Do you expect it to a lot of things? I mean, we knew it was going to be obviously a lot less kind of full on than last year was, because we were a championship team coming up. We had to get this play and get that, but we know it's not going to be that again. But what do you make of how this is kind of unraveling? It's been a bit of a quiet week, hasn't it?
We got the World Cup as well, haven't you? And you have to remember that even if we're not interested in signing a World Cup player, the players that are then attached to the sequence of moves could be at the World Cup. So, like when we sell Pascal Struijk as an example, the replacement to Pascal Struijk could be at the World Cup. So if we were in a situation where we were going to sell Pascal Struijk, he had 3 years on his deal, let's just say, you know, because it's a bit of a different situation because of the PSR and all the rest of it. But let's just say we're in a normal routine and we were selling him. He's here, but the replacement for him isn't. It might be a case that deal doesn't happen for another 2 or 3 weeks until the World Cup's finished. So I'm not overly concerned. I think, you know, the recruitment team have always shown themselves to be right on the money. You know, I saw Michael's comment there about getting gazumped by another team. I don't mind if that happens. If that's how it happens, I would rather Leeds United work with what they have to work with. They sell the project, they have a budget, and they go around their business in the effective manner in which they have. You know, do you think that we know that Calvert-Lewin had competition for a signature? Do you think that Yacobiol didn't? Do you think that Noah Okafor didn't? You know, all them players that signed for Leeds United last season, they all had competition and Leeds United got the job done. So we just have to, sometimes you're going to miss out on players. That's just the way that it is. There'll be players that come to Leeds United that other teams have missed out on. It's the way it goes.
We can't all be Spurs, can we?
Yeah, exactly.
What do you make, just commenting on that, what do you make of the fact that team that's finished 17th the last 2 years can now go out and spend 250 million, whatever it is, you know, and I mean it's absolute crazy business Spurs are doing at the moment. I mean, you know, and a lot of Villa fans, a lot of Newcastle fans saying, you know, it's ridiculous. I mean, there's a tweet going around where I think Villa's net spend over the last couple of years is like 14 million or something, yet they've managed to win a trophy, qualify for Europe. For me, it's fundamentally wrong that a team is hamstrung like that. I don't care what anyone tries to say. We know the rule, blah, blah, whatever. This is not right. It's not right that who is it saving here? The fact that Aston Villa, so well managed, incredible manager, shoestring, you know, really hamstrung for the last couple of seasons, having to kind of integrate Buendia, and, you know, Leon Bailey comes back off loan because they've got positions to fill. Newcastle, obviously, they've just not been able to do what they want to do. I just do not understand how then the team that finished 17th, absolute basket case, they can spend unfettered amounts because Beyonce does a few concerts and they have a few NFL games at their ground. I mean, come on. This is not right in any way or shape or form.
It is backwards, and it's elitist. It's protecting those that, you know, are right at the top. Sure, there's going to be some food chain reactions to what goes on. Of course, there's going to be teams at the top. There always has been. But if you are an Aston Villa or a Newcastle who have been unbelievably successful, really, over the last few years, qualifying for the Champions League, they should be able to go in and invest to compete. You know, really, we should be talking about Aston Villa and Newcastle as being potential champions of the Premier League. We should over the last few years, but they're not. You know, Villa have done unreal, really, to be able to maintain any sort of challenge for the top four with the squad. They've barely even changed it. It looks exactly the same as it did three seasons ago, really. Developed players, but yeah, it is backwards, mate, and it isn't facilitating the purpose in which it was even created for in the first place, which was to protect clubs from, you know, rogue owners and going under and all this. It's not even doing that anyway. So yeah, it's a mess.
Well, the thing is, like, you know, if you look at ownership of clubs 30 years ago, so what happened was why Manchester United could always spend more is because they had the biggest stadium, they had the more income, and they, you know, could invest it. And that's kind of how it kind of stacked up. That's why they always spent a bit more. And because, you know, if you know, your club had, you know, the local, you know, mill owner, or, you know, the local guy who owns a local business who couldn't put millions into the club, then that team didn't spend millions. But now, you know, Villa have got billionaire owners, Newcastle have got billionaire owners, we've got a billionaire. Yeah, it's like, this is what I worry with Leeds. It's like, you know, we need to, you know, do up the stadium to get more football income, and then we can spend on the team. Well, we don't know when they're going to change the rules. What if they change the rules in a couple of seasons and you know, make it even harder? You know, it's insane.
The one thing I will say to it, and playing devil's advocate a bit here, is that Manchester United have spent millions, Chelsea have spent millions, and actually both gone backwards over most recent years. So it isn't just as black and white as spend money, get success. There is the flip side to it as well. Brighton, they're a little bit annoying. But what I will say with Brighton is they've been unbelievably run, effectively run. The recruitment strategy has been brilliant, as have Brentford, as has Bournemouth. The reason that them three clubs are able to compete in the way that they are is not because of the incomes that comes into the club through merchandise and ticket sales and all the rest of that. It's through player sales, through signing really effectively, developing them into being top players and then selling them on. So there is more than one way to do this, but I do overall think that you are right in what you're saying.
Yeah, Kev here says, in hindsight, would have been better if Spurs got relegated and West Ham stay up because of this huge purchasing power. I mean, just on the Spurs, yeah. How do you think Spurs will get on with these players? Is this going to be, with De Zerbi, does it feel like they're cooking up something that's going to kind of power them up the league, or do you think it's going to be expensive misses again and 12 months of more problems?
I think they've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah,
a lot of work to do. I think they're going about it in the right way, but I still think I would see. I don't think they will see this, but I think success for them will be finishing in and around 10th. It's a rebuild season. There's some younger players coming in, but I do like some of the signings. Some of the signings. I think Senesi is a really good signing. It looks like they're going to make the Kinski number one. He signed a 5-year deal, which I think is really interesting. Probably send Vicario out, and Kinski were brilliant. I mean, he arguably kept him up. They were brilliant after that Atletico Madrid game. They've obviously signed Vuskovic, who comes with a huge reputation, but it's a risk. They've sold Vuskovic. That's a risk for Brighton, from a Brighton perspective. And they've also signed Van Hecker. That's who we're going at. I think Van Hecker's a risk. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really, really interesting.
Question marks about Archie's future as well down there. He's been rumoured that Newcastle are going to put a bid in for him, and he's certainly slipped down that pecking order. He lost his place ultimately under De Zerbi. Might not fancy him, 2021 now. So yeah, interesting one to see what Archie's future holds.
Needs to be playing, doesn't he? And he needs to be playing in a position, he needs to be playing centre midfield, and he needs to be filling in at right back when they're desperate. It can't be sometimes centre back, sometimes right back, sometimes centre midfield. He's going to end up stunting his development. I still think it was the right move for him. Some Leeds fans will be like, grass ain't always green. I don't agree with that. I think it was still the right move for him. We
didn't sell him. We had to sell him as well.
We did.
A couple of things on Leeds then. The Julian Brandt deal, obviously that's maybe taking a hit this week. Reports say his favours a move to La Liga. Apparently his father and agent were seen at Betis training ground, but apparently Betis have turned him down. Betis of Junior Firpo, Marc Roca and Diego Llorente, champions league for there. So that's a deal. I mean, it was always going to be a very, very difficult deal. Not sure what's going to happen there. I'm still hoping we can snag that. I really love that one.
Yeah, I'd really like that one. It'd be one of the most exciting signings of the whole summer, especially considering the fact that it's a free transfer. You get that quality and experience for nothing. I think it's probably going to be beyond us. I've seen this story before with Julian Brandt in other players. Feels a bit. I know it's different because there's no transfer fee, but it feels a bit like a little bit like Rodrigo de Paul when we were hoping, and
Charles de Ketelaere, remember that?
Yeah, Charles de Ketelaere. We've had a number of them, haven't we? But Rodrigo de Paul was one that really stung because he would have just elevated us on so much, and it felt doable. Vardiol were another one, but yeah. So
Gakpo.
Gakpo. I'm trying not to get my hopes up for it, to be honest.
Yeah. Do you think we still need to do a bit of flavour in those positions, though? I mean, I certainly feel like we need to add something there, at the top end of the pitch that'll just take us to that next level.
I still think there's loads of work to do, mate, if I'm honest. It's going to be a busy window. I think you'll see, I've just seen Gav say there about the exits are slow. You're going to see a lot of outgoings. Players are away on holiday. Players are away at the World Cup. There's all sorts going on and moving parts in the background. I reckon you're probably going to see 4 or 5 go out, and I reckon you'll see 6 or 7 come in. I think the starting lineup especially will look very, very different to what it looks like now.
Yeah, it'd be absolutely fascinating to see. Rumours that Harry Gray is just about to agree a deal to Sheffield Wednesday. So another loan for him. I mean, Sheffield Wednesday, I mean, hopefully they've got themselves sorted out a little bit now. Interesting one for Harry. I mean, obviously, you know, more exposure to that level of football. I mean, you know, ultimately we hope that we're developing him into a first team striker in the Premier League. You know, that's what you want. Should be a decent move to him, still in Yorkshire. So familiar territory there. How do you think he'll get on there, Jay?
Yeah, it's a weird one with Harry because he's kind of done that media thing again, hasn't he? Where he's removed Leeds United from his bio, and it's so weird when they do it. And it were obviously pictured in a Spurs training.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Which obviously it's come from Archie and but yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. I think it's the perfect kind of move for him. I think he gets a full season at a team that are going to be expected to be in and around the top of the division. Liam Cooper's signed a new deal there, and so he will be around Harry, which I think is great for him. You know, he's got a familiar face and a leader, somebody that's going to be really able to help his development. I'd expect to see him, you know, in a Sheffield Wednesday team that hopefully are going to be in and around the top 6 at least. He'll be able to score 10, 15 goals in that team, and it'll be part of his development. You know, I saw somebody mention earlier this week that they wanted Harry to take the same development process as Harry Kane did at Spurs. And it makes a lot of sense. You know, when you saw Harry Kane in the Football League, you would never have expected that he'd have gone on to have the career that he had. Never in a million years. When he were at Millwall and Leicester, he didn't look anywhere near the same kind of player that he obviously turned out to be. Even a couple of seasons after, when he started playing for Spurs, I mean, it was light years in front of what he'd been in the Football League. So it all helps. It all makes part of the development. And I'm hopeful that the club can get it right. They need to get it right because we need to have some of his own coming through.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to do it from either the point of view of selling them to make money or just to kind of flush your squad, because at the minute we're kind of having to be dad's army, aren't we? And you know, Johnny Howson's still registered in the squad to tick the box. Over the coming week then, what do you expect? Do you think we'll have a busy week? Harry Wilson announcements, do you think stuff's going on, or is the World Cup still going to kind of slow it all down, do you think?
I think next week you'll hear about some free transfer stuff because the players are going to want to have an idea of where they're going to be going into pre-season. Pre-season, I saw somebody ask a minute ago, so usually starts around middle of July. So they'll probably have another couple of weeks yet, and then obviously the World Cup players will come back probably the end of July. I think that's part of the reason why the start of the season's late into August, because of this situation. So, I think we'll start to see some movement on the likes of Harry Wilson, Karl Darlow over the next week. And then the other stuff will just come through as and when it can, really. The dominoes fall, don't they, and move. This keeper situation will probably all hinge on what happens with Darlow, and then that'll start to move. So, yeah, interesting one. Really fascinating one.
Absolutely. Before we finish up, then, we'll just turn attention back to the World Cup. England, Mexico, Monday morning, Jay. What are your thoughts? I mean, what have you made of England so far in the World Cup?
I mean, I've been on a lot of these World Cup shows that we've been doing, and I mean, I've been insanely disappointed with England overall. Really disappointed. I don't know, we haven't. We've beaten what's in front of us. I get all that, but if we'd have come across anybody with any sort of real quality within their side, I think we'd already be back home. The group, you know, I think the group was favourable. You know, Croatia made a good fist of it against Portugal last night, but they're nowhere near the same side that they were. They're still rattling around 40-year-old Luka Modric in the centre midfield. You know, they've got Ivan Perisic playing up front, 37-year-old winger playing at striker. You know what I mean? Like, come on, let's be right. I mean, Ghana and then Panama. I mean, what do you want me to say? And then Congo. You know, Congo have got some decent players, and they've got the capabilities to be able to hurt opposition. But we were so flat in that first half. There were arguments all over the pitch. There were disjointedness. Balls were, being mistouched. They looked like they couldn't deal with the pressure. They got it together second half, but without Harry Kane, would have been absolutely screwed. So, I don't see any world in which we stand a chance on Sunday, if I'm honest. I think at the Azteca, Mexico.
The altitude. I mean, altitude. You can't even adapt to the altitude.
They've lost 2 games in 80-some appearances at the Azteca.
Yeah.
It's nuts, is their record there. And not only that, but they're a good side. They've got some good players. So, if we get, I said this to Chris yesterday, if we get through this game in any shape or form, you won't see me complaining. No. Even if the performance stinks, but we win 1-0, and we won't be bothered, because this is where them kind of games come out. And I get the importance of being able to show that resilience in a game like this, but it just doesn't feel likely.
No, it feels like the odds are stacked. I'm surprised with how poorly we've played. I'm really, because I thought with Tuchel and he'd picked his own squad, I thought, yeah, great, he's his own man. But we look disjointed. The defensive side of it is poor. It's like I said on the review, it's like, we had all these problems, and yes, Tuchel ends up making a couple of changes and kind of it gets us there in the end. But it's like, well, we had so many problems before that point.
Yeah,
I just don't understand. And I know Spain are obviously elite and fantastic back to front, but just when you're watching a team and everything clicks into place and they know their jobs, it's working together, it's a well-oiled machine. I mean, watch England the other day. It's like they've never been on the same pitch together. I mean, how can it look that disjointed? I don't get it.
The thing is, Browney, I mean, the best teams are coming, turning up and blowing away their opposition. France swept Sweden aside like it was nothing. We'd have made that look hard work. Yeah. Spain, exactly the same against Austria. I were talking Austria into being a potential threat. It were easy. And the likelihood is that Argentina will turn up on Friday and blow Cape Verde away as well, because that's what the best teams do. Whereas it just doesn't feel like we're there. I think us and Portugal are very similar at the minute. Very, very similar. Portugal made hard work of Croatia yesterday. I think that's where we're at. Germany. Yeah, we're in the same bracket as them. We're not in that bracket of teams that are capable of really winning this competition. The only team that I'd say are in between the two groups are Norway. I think Norway have got the capabilities of being able to look really good, but also then sometimes just fall into that bracket of probably just lacking a little bit of quality that they're going to need. But Norway have got Brazil. I think what a great game that is. What a great game that is. I think they could really pull that off, Norway. I really do.
Absolutely tasty. Have Mexico conceded a goal yet? Nope.
No
goals conceded for Mexico. Nope.
Should we go through some comments before we finish?
Let's do it. It's the last game at the Azteca as well.
Yes.
So that's the last one there. Skip. A lot of teams playing low block. We struggle so much in our formation. Michael Reece-James was always a risk with constant injuries to be part of the squad. Good stuff.
We were unlucky with Livramento as well, weren't we?
Yeah.
Livramento getting injured as well, because I think he'd have slotted in. I think he's actually a really good player. So
yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. Right. Well, we'll park things there. Myself and Jay will be back on if there is anything urgent or breaking news with Leeds United. We're waiting to see what's going on. But thank you to everyone who commented today. I really appreciate it. If you've not done so already, please do like the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you're watching this again later, please get your comments in and like the video as well. Keep an eye out for World Cup content daily on the channel. We will all be back Monday. I'll be knackered. We'll have toothpicks in his eyes to keep open for that one. So check out the channel for that. Myself and Jay will be back, like I say, with any Leeds news as well. So keep a lookout then. I've been Stephen Brown, with me, Jason Booker. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, mate.
And we'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.